We all carry ghosts from the past. People, places, problems, prejudices, events, experiences, emotions, good ghosts, disturbing ghosts, dormant ghosts, what I call executive ghosts that behave like some boss in a distant city. Now and then they dump on us, dominate us, tyrannize us, take over. Sometimes a dormant ghost sits up and starts to make demands upon us. Sometimes we realize we've done something, and then we say, what got into us? Maybe it was a ghost from the past disturbing us. Sometimes a ghost from the past blocks our best judgment, interferes, and we lose our insight and our foresight. And we do a lot of damage. We leave many memories behind. And we wish. Sometimes a ghost from the past, like a restless adolescent, refuses to go to bed. Or like an agitated oldie, refuses to stay in bed. Said one woman, aged in her late 60s, the ghost of my past cling to me, or maybe I cling to them. They know I will give them a home, even when they are determined to damage me. So what will I do with them? How can I get free of them? I saw a young fellow just recently, a young fellow in his early 20s, and he said, I knew from grade 3 in primary school that I was not going to be anything significant or do anything significant. I was never picked in any sporting team. I was never praised for my marks at school. And my parents were low performers, so they didn't expect much from me. So as I get ready to enter a C+ career, he said, I'm carrying these non-negotiable negative evaluations inside me from what has already occurred in my first 20 years. What sort of girl, he said, would want to marry me? So you all know the experiences of walking through cemeteries, remembering. You've all been to school reunions, many functions, remembering. Some of you have been to wartime veterans gatherings, remembering. Family reunions, remembering. You've watched television or various pictures showing the archives of governments or the archives of the Secret Service in different countries, and the corridors and the canyons of records that have been kept on people, remembered and not remembered, all ghosts of the past. For centuries, religion has tried to help our ghosts of the past, but it failed. Our ghosts are still with us. Way back in the writings of the Psalms, predating the birth of Christ by hundreds of years, the psalmist said, God, in the fullness of your mercy, blot out my misdeeds. That's Psalm 51. And in our adolescent searchings, we probably prayed that prayer. But did it happen? In the psalm again, the cry went up, God, get rid of my enemies. Wipe out those who persecute me. And in the New Testament, the man at the pool of Bethesda we read today, waiting 38 years to get free of his ghosts. Freedom, he thought, was to come from some external intervention, the pool. But Jesus came on the scene and said, it is the power of a new faith in life that will set you free. And that new faith is waiting for you. Let go of your paralyzing ghosts. Let go of this blaming things onto your ghosts from the past for your stressful state. You have the potential for a new life, a freer, flourishing, better life. And it's time to get on your feet. Take hold of your strengths and let them work. That was his message to the man at the pool of Bethesda. Jeanette Winterson, in her very good little book called The Power Book, reminded me to take down again another book called Rembrandt's Eyes. It's a huge book. I was going to lag it in here, but it was too heavy. It talks, amongst other things, about his self-portraits, and it gives pictures, the reproductions of his self-portraits, each one different. One dressed up magnificently, another an old man with deeply wrinkled face. There's one at the age of 34 and another at the age of 56. Each one and all of them telling a story, the ghosts of that man's life, present and past. And where was he, the artist? He was, of course, there, but in the real sense, he wasn't there. The self has taken on something else. So we're looking at the ghosts, and we're left to wonder, which one is he? Or not being there, we're left to wonder whether he is in the face of any one of those he creates. Huygens' poem, also in that book, was written and spoken to his sister, who was losing her sight. And this poem, I think, reminds us that in all the activities, the underground activities of the ghosts of our past, we sometimes lose sight of what the theologian Paul Tillich called the things of ultimate importance. And so here's the poem Huygens to his sister. You and I have lived a multitude of years, have outlived with our seeing the sight of many men. This all we have surveyed, experienced in this world, things worthy to be seen and not worthy to be seen. Insight alone remains, through which we fit ourselves to search with ourselves and learn what is within us. So I come to focus on the ghosts of our past, the ghosts that we're carrying with us, the good ghosts. They are people whose memories we treasure, the events that have enriched our lives, the things that we did that changed for the good the lives of others. They're the good ghosts. And I'm going to leave the good ghosts, except I'm going to tie 2 tags to their feet before I leave them. And one note says this, to the good ghosts, or to us: don't let these good ghosts of the past become so dominant that they stand in front of your present personality. And the other note would say, don't let these good ghosts too subtly conceal the damage your bad ghosts can do and are doing. So although the good ghosts are labelled correctly as good, we need to find a proper freedom from them to be our real, our ideal, our good selves. Do you know, this year, just a month ago, the philosophers of the world celebrated the 300th anniversary of the birth of Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He was an extraordinary person, a fascinating person, I think. And he wrote many books and operas and novels, visited several countries, kicked out of some countries. In fact, his book on the social contract ensured that he would be kicked out of Rome and kicked out of France as well. But in the social contract written about the political the political life he thought would be possible, he said this: man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. He was talking not only about the body politic, but he was talking about each person. Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. So I go to the bad ghosts, the damaging ghosts, the traumas of the past, the tyrannies of the past, the things done by us or the things done to us by others, the things not done, the memories and the nightmares, the unhealed life, the memory that keeps sleepwalking every second night, the fear that refuses to close its eyes, the albatross that clings to us for so long that we start clinging to it. The reading from the epistle, the Ephesians today, Ephesians chapter 1, said our life purpose is to bring everything into a strong harmony of the kind Christ himself wanted us to find. A strong harmony. And that harmony is not only between, but it's also within. And for those who get troubled about ideas of God, you can turn back to that Psalm 113, my version that I read. And it says, rather than being locked in with the ghosts of your past, let your impoverished spirits be touched and transformed by grace, life's recurring grace. Magnificent words. And with these magnificent possibilities, who of us would want to keep feeding the ghosts, the bad ghosts of your past? Rather, it says, from sunrise to sunset, let there be people offering their life's work and pleasure and praise to this God who opens to us the very gift of life. So we need to explore, don't we, the ways to get free of the ghosts of the past so we can do just that. You see, it is all too sad that people keep promulgating an old faith that doesn't work. Why not look for a new faith? A new faith, and see if it will bring something good for our life. A new faith is a new energy. And I'm going to put to you some points about it. It's a new energy to be in harmony with the view ahead of us, rather than in harmony with the ghosts, the bad ghosts behind us. The new faith tells us that we can get free of the past and that we can look forward with faith, the faith energy, to what is possible. 8 years ago, Carlo Stringer of Tel Aviv wrote a very insightful article in this journal. It's called the Psychoanalytic Psychology Journal. And he called the article, would you believe it, of potholes and bends. And it is such a good article that tomorrow I shall ensure that all of my staff at Ken Miller will have a copy. It says this. In essence, it says this. If you're riding a motorbike, now I suppose not many of you would ride a motorbike, but do any of you have, as I do, a dream of riding a Harley Davidson? Every time I see a Harley Davidson, I stop and say, there, maybe one day. No, never. But it is such a magnificent instrument. And it tallies with what I'm about to say. He says, if you're riding a motorbike, often your most pressing concern is to avoid the potholes and to watch out for those sharp bends because you might miss them. You can be so focused on the potholes and the bends that you fail to experience the enjoyment of the ride and the feeling of harmony with the road. That's what he says. In fact, you can be so focused on the potholes that you keep hitting them. So anxious about taking the bend that you run over the side. Lost in your anxiousness of the moment. You miss the extraordinary miracle of the uplifting experience of the view as you ride towards your destination. And Dr. Stringer says this: even experienced riders who have neglected their skills for a while will find out to their dismay that they can still freeze and ride straight into the source of danger. Yet emphasis on the technique of looking where you want to go leaves out a deeper aspect of the experience, the liberation of the gaze of the experience. The liberation of the gaze to look ahead is not just about avoiding the danger, it is about acquiring a new type of vision. It involves, he said, a change in your state of mind. You begin to ride well, he says, when you begin to experience the motorcycle riding as a creation of beauty. Series of bends that before had felt difficult and jerky gradually seemed to change their character. I began to see a flowing, beautiful line that could be carved through them. Do you hear it? As he rode, he was creating an aesthetic composition in which he was a flowing part. He saw two types of riders: those who were always fighting with the elements and their fears, and those for whom riding was a joyful activity, who are open to the sensual and spiritual harmony it can provide. Motorbikes, of course, I'm talking about motorbikes, but I'm talking about something more than motorbikes. I'm talking about how the ghosts of our past keep dragging us back to the potholes so that we fail to take the bend in the road. We lose our good flow. So we are implored to find a good harmony with the experience of life and the view ahead, rather than be preoccupied with the potholes and the bends that come to us from the past. So the second thing, the ghosts of the past, changing my imagery, can be like itches that compulsively cry out for us to scratch them. Scratch them again and again. The scratching is, of course, is a false solution, a short-term solution, a destructive solution. We need to search for the right soother, not a scratcher. The right soother is first of all and finally a self-soother. The ghost of the past is in the past. We cannot get it settled by dragging it like a dead fetus into the present, trying to give it life again. That's not possible. The ghost of the past is within us, and it needs to be soothed into quiescence, into somnolence. Somnolence is the gift of the Roman god Somnus, the god of sleep. It needs to go to sleep. You see, we've never been taught, I don't think any of us have been taught, self-soothing. So we demand it from others when it is not of their gift to give it. Like Lady Macbeth, we all have to hear the teaching that she had to hear. Therein the patient, the doctor says, therein the patient must minister to herself. And that is also the word to the man at the pool of Bethesda in the gospel reading. And it's also the word to us, self-soothing. Third thing, our ghosts of the past become disturbing whenever we load them with the emotions of anger, of guilt, of shame, of hate, of resentment, of ruminative anxiety, of fear, of humiliation, of rejection, of disillusionment, of disgust, of revenge. Notice these 12 emotions are decidedly negative emotions, and we hold on to them. I want to recall how many people have told me of their ghosts of the past loaded with the most profound love, mingled with unrelieved sadness in the loss of a child, loaded with pride and profound and positive grief for a soldier son or daughter killed in wars, loaded with great empathy and pity for the suffering people of the world, loaded with kindness for people carrying heavy tasks and horrific pain, loaded with emotions, the emotions of relief and liberation when the surgical operation was successful, loaded with emotions of fulfillment and contentment in finding a good purpose in life, a life enriched by the good ghosts of the past. And there are, you see, another dozen or more emotions, but they are decidedly positive emotions. At the heart of the new faith that I advocate is the belief in courage, the belief in our capacity and courage to neutralize those negative emotions, the destructive emotions, the disabling emotions, the emotions of what I call the emotions of the heavy overcoat. At the heart of the new faith, there is a focus on the emotions of life, the emotions of growth, the emotions of joy, the emotions of harmony. So I come to the fourth issue. Let me just recap for a moment. How do we get free of our bad ghosts? Focus on harmony with the road ahead and a different view of life. Self-soothing dynamic. A different, competent management of our emotional life so that we manage our positive emotions well and we put to sleep, neutralize the negative emotions. So let me come to number 4. It is a fact that what is a terribly persisting, damaging experience for one person, another person can find a different reaction. One person can be deeply damaged. Another person can find their lives turned around, turned inside out, and they'll live differently. We tend to believe that our bad ghosts must inevitably, determinatively leave us back there. I belong in 2 professions, both of which are focused towards something quite different, towards liberation, towards release. You see, these 2 professions, properly interpreted, speak of a strong, healing, resilient self. Some have it. Some need to discover it. I'm sure it does not discriminate in its availability. But there are differences in the way that it can be activated. So we need to see that the self, the strong self, is an issue that we need to focus on and strengthen. I come to the 5th issue. The new faith, believe it or not, does not have a stultifying doctrine of the Holy Spirit, or what traditionally was called the Holy Ghost. What it proposes, the new faith proposes, is a dynamic evolution of the human spirit. We've forgotten it. We haven't learned it. Evolving towards a fuller, more enjoyable, more empowering life. A good life, a growth life, a freer life. Nothing short of and nothing less than a dynamic spirit evolution. Spirit evolution means growth of the human spirit, strengthening of the human spirit, resilience in the human spirit, inspiration for the sleeping spirit, enjoyment of the human spirit. The ghosts of the past can so persuasively lull us into disregarding the place of the revived spirit in the response to our life. It is worth noting that D.H. Lawrence once wrote that he wanted to recognize that although the irrational side of us cannot survive, the rational side does not suffice. He said, we live by mysterious influxes of spirit. We live by mysterious influxes of spirit. reviving, renewing, recurring, the grace of a good spirit. A spirit evolution builds on the psychological and scientific study of love, of joy, of awe, of compassion, and all of them emotions of life and growth, so that we might well come to sing, as we did today, my life flows on in an endless song, above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off song that hails a new creation. Would you please stand? And the biblical text today said this: bring everything into a strong harmony of the kind Christ wanted us to find. May the God you see in all the colours of creation arouse in you a sense of awe and wonder. May the God who is a sacred presence be real to you. May the God who is a source of inspiration and courage keep calling you forward. May your God go with you and bless you today and always.